wow, what do you know? It's time for the Pocket Knife Show. Hey, it's Mike on the mic again for another episode of the Pocket Knife Podcast. Toward the beginning of Kyle Idleman's book, One at a Time, early in Chapter 2, he asks a difficult question. What is the most that one person you don't know has ever mattered to you? Think on that for a second. Has anyone you don't know mattered to you ever? Have you felt concern for a stranger even a little bit? Idleman's query brought a story to mind. A few years back, my brother, brother-in-law, and several nephews were enjoying a short rest at the summit of a Colorado 14er we'd just climbed. I don't remember for sure, but I think it was La Plata, a mountain which reaches skyward from sea level 14,360 feet. It could have been Mount Massive, a 14,429-foot behemoth, but I'm pretty sure that was the one we lost our bearings on and ended up slightly off course on the descent. That bit of wandering did not happen on the same outing as the story I'm recounting now. Whichever peak it was, the incident I'm sharing happened just after we rose to head back down. About 100 meters down the slope, leading away from the summit, an older man approached us. He seemed a bit agitated as he spoke. "I can't find my son," were the first words out of his mouth when he drew near. I have to tell you, my heart rate jumped a bit at those words, and it wasn't just the altitude. Can you imagine losing your kid in such a remote place? There were 1,000 different ways his son could have gone, some of which would have been disastrous to take. I was picturing a terrified 12-year-old wandering this way and that, not knowing what to do. I wanted more than anything for this kid, I imagined, to be safely back with his dad. I was all in, ready to do whatever it took to find him. We asked the son's name and quickly set to a quick search of the domed surface near the summit. Everywhere we went, we called out the name the man had given us. Even spread out as we were, we soon decided it was unlikely we were going to find our missing person. We offered to walk the man down the mountain to see if we could find the boy, knowing we might simply get him down and have to assist him in making a call to the local search and rescue team. He declined, saying he wanted to look a little while longer. We promised to send help when we got back to the parking lot and to cell service. The descent of most 14ers is easier than the ascent. That was the case with the mountain we were hiking down. Putting one foot in front of the other over and over again, we progressed rapidly toward the trailhead, keeping an eye out along the way for any sign of life. I don't recall how far along our downward journey we'd gotten when an upward-bound man in his 30s appeared a few hundred feet below us on the trail. The young man, as he came closer, seemed to be as disturbed as the older man had been at the summit. I suddenly realized I hadn't asked the dad at the top how old his son was. I'd assumed younger than young, but as I looked at this guy walking toward me, I wondered if I'd been off by a decade or two. When the man was within a dozen feet of our company, I tentatively spoke the name the dad had given us. "Yes," was the cautious reply. I can't tell you how relieved I was to hear that one affirmative word. We explained the situation, assured him his dad was likely on his way down now, and they'd meet within a few minutes. The conversation ended, and we parted ways. That was one time when a complete stranger mattered a lot to me. Did the original question or my story trigger a memory of deep caring for you? What unknown person has caused you the most concern? I think of a story Jesus told about a man on a journey through the mountains from Jericho to Jerusalem. The unnamed man in the parable was robbed, beaten, and left half dead. You've heard of the Good Samaritan. Here's the rest of the story Jesus told. It's found in Luke 10. I'll start reading at verse 31, the verse right after the attack. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Do you remember the question Jesus posed after this? It's in verse 36. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? In verse 37, an expert in the law spoke up with the answer, "The one who had mercy on him." Then Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." I say with just a little shame, I've failed a neighbor or two when they were in need. You've probably done the same. No one's perfect in the caring for strangers department. But couldn't those of us who know God, those who've found love in life lived with Jesus, grow in our capacity for compassion toward those in distress around us? Of course. The challenge is letting the Spirit use the stories you've heard today and the question posed to move you to increased love toward each unknown man or unknown woman you come upon daily. Maybe for starters, we could just ask for eyes and hearts open to the suffering and difficulties of others. If we pray for such, what good might God do through us for the hurting folks around us? Shall we go find out? Oh no, it's sad, I know. We've come to the end of the show. See you next time.